Good morning. Well, now for something completely different, for a little bit of time. I'm here on House Bill 5577. Chairman Dathan, Chairman Gadkar Wilcox, ranking members Carney and Sampson, and esteemed members of the Government Oversight Committee. And also, Madam Chair, the First Selectman of Summers is here with me as well, and maybe to expedite things, if he wants to come up, he can testify right after me.
Yes, and what speaker number is that?
He should be 13.
13, yes, please.
Yes. And so 5577, I'm hoping the second time is a charm. Exactly 2 years ago, I worked with the town of Summers to initiate legislation creating a transfer of 3 acres of land from the Department of Corrections up in my neck of the woods to the town of Summers, specifically so the town of Summers could build a telecommunications tower. And ultimately, this telecommunications tower would be a benefit not only to the town of Summers, but also indirectly to the Department of Corrections. That went through the Government Administration and Elections Committee, but apparently the language was not exactly what we thought and the town of Summers thought, and did not reflect a meeting of the minds. And it got gummed up. These problems were pointed out by the Department of Administrative Services over the last 2 years. We tried to have it go forward for no cost, which was the agreement of the parties, but DAS pointed out that there was not the language in the bill that passed 2 years ago to allow them to do that. So I'm back for a second bite at the apple to get it through this legislature the proper way. This land has no other great purpose. It doesn't overlook a river. It's not prime land to develop or anything like that. It's by agreement with the Department of Corrections and the town of Summers. So for those of you who are not familiar with my neck of the woods, my Senate district has more correctional facilities than any other Senate district. And up in the Enfield Summers area are 2 facilities, Osborne and the Cebulski reintegration units. And those areas, like other areas in the state of Connecticut, the Department of Corrections uses certain facilities for certain types of inmates. A lot of times people think about it just in terms of the violence level, the threat level, but also they're segregated in terms of age, or mental health. So, for example, Garner down in Newtown, they have mental health issues, those inmates. That's where those inmates tend to gather because they have counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and it allows them to be more efficient in providing services. Likewise, in our neck of the woods, this Osborne-Cebulski area, we have the older inmates. And the older inmates have, like the rest of the population, more health issues. And so there's always been a little bit of tension because what has happened as this congregation of older inmates in this area has happened, there's been more 911 calls. Yes, the Department of Corrections just picks up the phone and dials 911. And what ends up happening is the town ambulance service from the town of Summers has, by law and morality, has the duty to go and respond to that. And we had to work out what was an appropriate fee schedule. So part of those negotiations are, hey, Department of Corrections, you're using our services, our first responders. We need an upgrade. Can you at least give us some land so that we can build a new telecommunications tower for our first responders? We'll pay for the tower. Town of Summers says, we'll pay for the tower, we just want the land. Department of Corrections said, great, we'll give you the land, just for the cost of the transfer, not for fair market value, because they know that ultimately, when they pick up the phone and they call for 911, this telecommunications tower is going to be a benefit to everyone in that neck of the woods. And as a further act of good faith, what the town of Summers insisted was a restrictive covenant in the deed in that this parcel shall be used only for public safety purposes, and if that ever varied, then the parcel would revert back to the state. So it's sort of like a bells and suspenders. The state of Connecticut actually has this benefit if the purpose stated by the town of Summers is attempted to be changed 10 years, 20 years down the road. So everybody's in agreement. It's a great idea. I just want to say that I want to thank David McCluskey, the liaison from the Department of Corrections. What he did in the last week to help in anticipation of this hearing is, what you understand is, for an agency, a department like the Department of Corrections, to submit testimony in support of something like this, which they did, they had to communicate with the Office of Policy and Management, essentially say, Mother, may I, can I submit testimony in favor? And they got the go-ahead. So this has been vetted. It has been vetted for no cost to the town of Somers for a purpose that will not only benefit the town of Somers, but will, in an indirect way, definitely benefit the Department of Corrections. And the state of Connecticut felt so assured that their position was covered and that this was a fair transaction that the Office of Policy and Management just yesterday told Department of Corrections, yes, you may submit testimony to the Government Oversight Committee in support of this transaction. So it may have taken us 2 years, but we're at the process now where this can go forward and the town can immediately, they've been waiting patiently for 2 years, and this emergency situation has not gone away, and they really want to be able to get that new telecommunications tower built. I just want to now turn over the rest of my time to the first selectman of the town of Somers, Tim Keeney, and he won't say this about himself, but I'm going to say it about him. Tim Keeney was a Navy SEAL. He was a Vietnam War veteran. He was commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection under the late Governor Lowell Weicker. Then he became commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection for the state of Rhode Island. And under the administration of President George W. Bush, he was third ranked in the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration. He then went on, came back to North Central Connecticut, became our probate judge for a number of years, a beloved probate judge in 4 of my towns. I don't have Union, but or Stafford, but 2 of my towns, but 4 towns in North Central Connecticut until, Madam Chair, you will understand, the Constitution of Connecticut aged him out, where he wanted to continue his public service as first selectman for the great town of Somers. So with that, I'd like to defer the rest of the testimony to him.
Thank you, Senator Kissel, and welcome to the First Selectman, and thank you for that very impressive introduction. And Senator Kissel, as usual, thank you for going into so much detail. You basically answered the questions I would have asked, but I might just follow up on some of them. But being so thorough as always, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank
Please
you,
proceed.
co-chairs and ranking minority members and distinguished members of the Government Oversight Committee. Thanks for the opportunity to present this testimony today. My name is Tim Keeney, First Selectman of Somers, and I respectfully request a modification to Special Act 24-13, and it's also House Bill 55-77, which concerns the conveyance of a parcel of state-owned land on Bilton Road in Somers. That, by the way, is currently managed by the Osborne Prison. And 2 years ago, Senator Kissel, as you heard, championed the effort to enable the town of Somers to acquire a 3-acre parcel from the Department of Corrections for the purpose of constructing a 2-way radio communications tower to serve our first responders. This project is essential to ensuring the reliable emergency communications and strengthening public safety for residents, visitors, and mutual aid partners, as well as Osborne Prison and other adjoining towns, by the way. It's going to help them as well. The original intent of the legislative language was to allow the town to acquire the parcel for a public safety with a public safety deed restriction, ensuring the land would be used exclusively for emergency communications infrastructure and would revert to the state if the town ceased to use it for that purpose. However, the final version enacted as Special Act 24-13 did not include these deed restriction provisions. Instead, it requires the town to purchase the parcel at fair market value. Following review, the Department of Administrative Services, after we had it appraised, of course, by 2 appraisers, determined the fair market value of the property to be $126,500. Unfortunately, this cost places the project beyond the Summers financial reach, jeopardizing an urgently needed public safety improvement. For this reason, the town of Summers respectfully requests that Special Act 24-13 be amended to, number one, remove the requirement to purchase the parcel at fair market value, and number two, to restore the original public safety deed restriction, including reversion of the parcel to the state should the town cease using it for public safety purposes. This modification fulfills the original legislative intent, ensures appropriate safeguards on state property, and allows the town to move forward with a life safety project that benefits our residents and the broader region. We have provided the committee with, one, a highlighted version showing the proposed modifications, two, an updated questionnaire, and three, the parcel map. We sincerely appreciate your consideration. Any assistance you can provide in advancing this critical amendment would be highly appreciated, and this is a high priority for me personally. Thank you for your time and your commitment. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you very much. And as I said, thank you for both of your testimonies. A lot of the questions were answered. If I can just clarify a couple of things. So you mentioned that there were two formal appraisals for this property. Okay.
Correct.
And just the description here, because you mentioned the parcel, the appraisal and the parcel at a cost of $120,000, but it says you're requesting a 3-acre parcel, which is $12,600. Is that, so what parcel of land are we talking about? In the submission.
I'm sorry, the 12,600 was referred to what?
It says that you're requesting a 3-acre parcel, which is valued at $12,600.
That's what that's what the town thought it would be valued should the restrictions be placed on it.
Okay.
But Senator Kissel talked about the town not paying any money. We, of course, we would prefer that.
Okay, so the difference is the fair market value versus.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
I understand.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so you're asking for just an amendment to add the reverter on there.
And the deed restrictions.
And the deed
well.
restrictions. Great.
Correct. That's it.
Perfect. And the deed restriction is for, so it says the deed for exclusively for public safety, but it sounds like it's actually going to be narrower than that. It's going to be for this public communications infrastructure. So is there a reason that you want to leave public safety as part of the deed restriction and not making it? Is it because you might have other public safety purposes?
I think that could be the case. I mean, I think public safety is a broader term, of course, gives us a little more leeway as to what it's used for.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
But
so I
think it fits. It fits what we need.
Okay, so because there might be, is that the reason it's
Yes.
beyond the infrastructure, there might be something else that going forward you might need.
Correct.
On that. But it looks like there's no opposition from the DOC, and certainly I see their supporting testimony. So it looks like they're on board. And then it looks like the town's also going to grant an easement to the Department of Corrections if they need it for a staging area for
Certainly.
emergency. So that has all
Absolutely.
been discussed.
I forgot to mention that part as well.
Great.
You're correct.
And so, Madam Chair, I just want to clarify, because under the statute, you're allowed to deed property that for no cost other than the cost of the transaction.
Yes.
And that has been done. And in my written testimony that I submitted, there's ample precedent in recent years for those kinds of transfers. Conversely, if the committee feels more comfortable, what I'm hearing from the first selectman is this: with the added deed covenants, the deed restrictions, and the reverter clause, that then an appraisal done by the town, I wouldn't want it to go to DAS and have it go through the Board of Properties review and all that rigmarole again. So we're trying to avoid DAS. We appreciate all their assistance, but please, no more assistance. We just want the deed, and if you feel that $12,600 is appropriate, it sounds to me that the town is willing to pay that, because that's what the town thinks the property is worth with the restrictive covenants. I actually think for their wait in 2 years in the emergency situation and the fact that the state is going to get plenty of benefit from this, I think for just the cost of the transaction is a more appropriate way to handle this, but I defer to your wisdom.
Thank you, Senator Kissel. That was very helpful to clarify. Great.
Any further questions?
Yes, thank you. Questions from the Representative Vail.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Selectman,
Representative Vail.
Senator, There was opposition testimony from OPM, but what they wrote is they support this, and I think they submitted this before their conversation with the Department of Corrections. And they ask, and from what I've heard, you both agree with this, is in line 3, the Department of Administrative serves on behalf of, they wanted that added, and then in line 23, if the town of Somers does not use said parcel for said purposes and does not retain ownership of said parcel or leases all or any portion of said parcel, the parcel shall revert back to the state of Connecticut, which is what you agreed to anyways. But just in case anyone was looking and they saw opposition, as long as that, and I think that's where we're at anyways. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, that's my understanding too now. I mean, does that mean that only the footprint of the tower is utilized and then the town has to deed over anything that doesn't have anything built on it? I would hope not. I think building the tower on the 3 acres and having that land accessible for emergency vehicles or electrical equipment, power boxes, whatever, is appropriate. But I think that because I just was able to work this out with Mr. McCluskey, the liaison for DOC, and get the written permission from DOC to submit in support of this in the last week, OPM jumped ahead of us. And I think, yes, absolutely, Representative Vail, I think we have addressed all of their concerns.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate your thorough work.
Thank you, Representative Vail. Representative Guthrie.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for your service. I've had a lot of friends over the years that served in Vietnam, and in fact, we had a ceremony on the 28th, commemorating or, remembering Vietnam, and I know it's a little off topic, but in my generation, a lot of the servicemen that came home were, my mentors, because they're only 10, 15 years older than me. So I understand, and I just wanted to say thank you for your service there. I just wanted to clear up one point. Representative Vail took a lot of my questions out because I was reading the same report, and I'm glad to hear that you will be putting those things in. Could you clarify, or could you touch on the point of not having the deed restriction be so limited? Because we have found in this committee that if we limit that too much and you by chance find that you have to go a little bit farther, we then have to go back and reconvene this committee to make a change in order to make that conveyance.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. That's why I think the word public safety is a broader term than strictly the radio tower. Yeah. And if there's another public safety use of this, I think it should be permitted, personally, as the first selectman in Somers. Mm-hmm. And if we would not use it for any other purpose than those purposes.
And I just wanted to make sure that clarification was on record. And,
Thank you.
And if we really want to talk about the government up here, you're also saving us a little bit more work up here to not have to come back and revisit this. Heaven forbid that you find that we may need to go a little bit more broad on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Gucker. Are there any other questions? Any questions online? No. If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please give my best to Chairman Dathan.
Yes, thank you.